regular Sabzi Live intro. Welcome to Sabzi Live,
Conscious
conscious living
living
with
with
a
a
twist.
twist.
So we are finally back, and where did we go, Sarah? What have we been doing?
We've been away
We've been away.
in a land of our own.
Well, we've gone through some changes. So what we've decided, we've kind of changed our lifestyle a bit, and part of it is trying to focus on, or what we wanted to focus on with what was happening with COVID, was quieting our lives. And in order to do that, what we decided to do was sell our home and buy a place kind of in a remote, small town. Not small where where we don't get internet. We still have internet, but we're
But
we've got,
there's less people in our town than there were at our place of worship
yes,
before.
yeah.
It's
So
a tiny town.
yeah, so we decided to kind of change our lives. And so, Sarah, you want to talk about why we did that?
I don't even know how to talk
We
about this. We haven't
So
okay.
the problem is
So
we don't know why we did it.
well, we haven't really. Well, I haven't really kind of settled into this yet, I think. And that's why we're like, do we do this? Do we let everybody know yet? Or do we just like hide out for another month?
Yeah,
But we, finally got our office ready and our recording studio ready. And
yeah.
so we said, let's just go for it. So why did we do this? Is that your question?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
well,
why
so
did you do this?
so why did I do it? Is we talked about quieting our lives, and one of the challenges that I know I have been facing is not being able to quiet my mind yet. So what I wanted to do was have this kind of slow down our lives, right? What COVID gave me, and what I think COVID gave us as a family, was a chance to kind of slow down, not run after activities one after the other.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was for business, whether it was for work, it could have been for anything. What it's given, or what I wanted, was an opportunity to slow all of those activities down. And in a physical space, we have slowed down our activities, I believe, from a, from that sense, right? From a physical space, when we need to drive, we need to think about, do we want to go, right? Like even things like I just went into town, and to
Into
right.
town. It's 20 minutes on the highway.
Yeah, I mean
Like
it.
we can't just like
Yeah.
pop around to the corner
Well,
stores.
but we were thinking about, okay, do I really need this stuff? Do I need, like, when we go get grocery shop, like do our grocery shopping? It's been very focused, right? Like, okay, here's what we're gonna need for the next month. It's not like, oh yeah, I'll just go get it.
Later.
Yeah. So that's part of, we're planning our lives, right? And what I'm still struggling with, honestly, is quieting my mind, right? Like my mind is still going 100 miles per
And
hour.
I think that's maybe where I'm having a bit of a different experience of this move because I feel so still, like just still inside. Wake
Yeah.
up every morning, look at that mountain that we live
Yeah.
on, right out the window, see the lake, and it's like, I'm not waking up with an alarm anymore. I'm not setting an alarm. I'm just waking up with the sun.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still have things to do. I have clients, I have like time things, but I don't feel rushed. I don't feel busy in the same way, and sometimes I do, but I
Yeah.
would say compared to before, it's like 30% of my mind is busy, and the rest is just kind of like learning to be at this slower rhythm. And, one of the things that we had an experience of that with was our renovations. And now I'm sure a lot of people have horror stories when it comes to renovations, but for us, it was a very interesting situation because we moved here
Yeah.
and it took 6 weeks for our house to be ready to live in. But we're lucky that we have kind of a suite at home. So we have a basement suite and the rest of the house. And so we actually spent those 6 weeks in the basement suite. And one of the things that I was kind of complaining about this house was that the ceilings aren't that high, right? That was my thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't know, it doesn't have like high ceilings. But when we were in the basement suite, I mean, like ceilings are, basement suite size. And so then when we came upstairs to the main level about 6 weeks after we arrived, it was like, wow, it's amazing,
Yeah.
right? And I think that just reminded me, like, just of perspective and the things that we think are really, really important. But then when you don't have them, they matter
Yeah.
less. And then suddenly, like, you're grateful for the little thing that you do
Right.
have.
And I think we also had this. we wanted our lives to, I keep on going back to slow down, right?
Oh, I know you're having a hard time with that
No, I know we are all, well, I
one.
am.
You speak for yourself.
I am. But one of the things we had to like talk about was, if the renos weren't moving fast enough, it was like we had to remind ourselves. I had to remind myself it's okay, right? Like this is the life we wanted. We wanted to choose something that's very like it
It's,
in a small town.
it's about the
It's about
relationships.
the relationships,
Yeah.
right? It's about uh, building, having conversations with our contractors rather than, hey, I need you to do the X Y Z,
Even when they're billing by the hour.
even when they're billing by the hour.
And these are
So
long, slow conversations.
some of them
You
were,
know,
yeah,
like, so I'm just like, wow, we've been talking for 45 minutes
right,
and we're paying you by the hour. But it's that mindset of what's the most important thing. And I think what we've often done in the world and the pace that we were living at, is the most important thing is the task at hand. And what's happening now, we're learning, is that the most important thing is actually like really being present with the people in front of us,
right,
which
right,
is, I mean, I'm paid to do that, right? As a therapist. But
yeah.
outside of that, I even me like rush, 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 get to the next thing. And it's like, maybe there's another way of doing this.
Somebody just said lol, so I'm like, we are, I know we laugh because this is us. We're having to go through this, uh, and it's an opportunity for us to kind of rethink the life that we want, right? And so why make a big change, right? There were family and friends who still do not agree with the change that we made,
But it
right?
was very few. Most of the people
Very
who we
few, yeah,
told were like, wow, you're so
yeah,
courageous. And I've always wanted to do that, but I've never been able to. And somebody said, you're such an inspiration. And like, so those types of things. But I mean, I was pretty scared,
yeah.
right?
I mean, we
Because it's
still
like,
are.
and we like the things that I mean, all of us have had to give up so much over this last year with COVID, and the things that for me I thought were really kind of foundational to my happiness. So like my relationships in my community, the gym, my kids' school, I was really involved there. Our place of worship that we went to, just the local like Starbucks, all those groceries, all the familiar things. The weather that we chose to live in a place that had milder weather. Faison grew up in Chicago. I grew up in Calgary. And so we chose to live on the West Coast to have that milder weather. And now we're giving it up to go live in the mountains where there's like literally this much snow, our first snowfall. And we're like, we're going to shovel the driveway. And it took us about
2 days.
yeah, about 3 hours one day and then another hour and a half the next day. And we needed breaks. I needed to take a chair outside to sit down on because I didn't have snow pants yet to sit on the snow. It was just like, it seemed like and that's what we keep running into, is that, oh, we're like, oh, we're going to live in the country and, it's going to be quiet and we're going to be able to see the stars. You can absolutely see the stars, but you can't see a damn other thing. It's so dark out here. Like when the lights go off, like right now, you can't, if you look outside, you can't tell, like, are my eyes open or closed? I can't tell because it's so dark out there. So it's like what we expected it to be versus what it actually is, and
Yeah,
not kind of romanticizing this experience. But it is pretty great. But there are things that we're still adjusting.
yeah, yeah. And so I think as we move forward, right, and one of the things that we're trying to do now, the idea was that now we're here, we want to focus on the things that we love to do, right? We that we can really be very mindful of the activities that we take on,
Mm-hmm.
right? So things like we talked about going live regularly. So we taking a chance. We don't even know if people can hear
We
us
don't
right
even
now.
know if our mics are working.
Yeah. Yeah, we have
Like,
no.
let's just try this thing.
Yeah, so we're taking those, but this is something we wanted to do. Like I know I'm taking on, and thanks to my family, I'm taking on a course with kind of actually pursuing this life coaching piece that I've always wanted to try.
He says
So
thanks to his family because it was a gift
it was a
from
gift
the
for my,
family for his 40th birthday. We got him a coaching course. Like the
yeah,
whole, like, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, like
yeah,
everybody got
everybody
together.
pitched in,
Yeah.
absolutely. So but these are the things that we're trying to focus on, right? And I know we're very still irregular. I am very irregular, like going for walks in the nature, going out and doing all of those things, and just being, right. Like I think what you talked about, like I know I wake up, I sometimes just go sit outside even though it's a little cool, just looking at the lake, having my tea, having my coffee in the morning, just looking up, not rushing to like, oh, I need to start work. Like I know this morning when I woke up, it was like I need to do something. Now, do we need to physically change? Do we need to sell our place, buy this,
Probably
buy this
not.
other? No, I think we. I'm sure, right? Like many people kind of do that, but I feel like needed that boost, and that's what this is providing me, right? And
It's like a reset button.
yeah, it's like a reset button. It's like to say, okay, we're gonna take a chance. Like every time I'm deciding, oh, I'm gonna start working at 6 in the morning, it's like that's not what I moved here. That's
Hmm.
not why we sold our place. It's
Right.
not to start like so now, right? Like sometimes, yeah, I'm up at 6, but I'm
Hmm.
reading a book, reading something interesting, rather than starting to work.
And the other thing I think that I've been learning is, so I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I'm getting over it. But for those who know me, I'm a high achiever, and I'm a bit of a not okay, I'll say I'm a high achiever. And so what that means is often I usually don't start things that I'm not very good at, right? Because I like to be good at what
Like
I
this.
like this, like landscaping. Let me tell you a little story about landscaping. So when we moved here, the not the previous owners, but the ones before that were professional sandcastle builders. That's a thing. And so our entire front area is two sand pits, or a sand pit and a mountain of sand. That's like the front of the house. And it was hideous because it was no longer a beautiful sandcastle. It's just a pile of
Sand.
sand that gets wet in the snow, in the rain, and whatever. And on top of that, there were like toilets that had been discarded for the renos, and there was like lumber everywhere, and there was garbage, and like the whole front of it looked like a junkyard, the front of our house, right? It did. And so we're really big on like feng shui and flow in our house. And Faison's like, it just doesn't feel good in here. I'm like, yeah, because it looks like we're living in the junkyard. So one day we decided to like just clean up the front, just kind of get it done. And it took some time. We finally cleared out all the junk, and then we said, okay, let's.
Took your sister to come with a truck.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Saima, for coming all the way from Cal. So yeah, my sister came with the truck. We went to the dump. We moved stuff. Um, and then so it was clear, but we still kind of had this idea of how we want the front of our house to look. And we've lived only in apartments, other people's basements, or a townhouse. So we've never been responsible for the outside of our house. This is a whole new area for us. We've always said, like, let someone else handle that.
Since we've been together before,
Before, a
obviously
different
we did.
story. Yeah, we've all like mowed our
Yeah.
parents' lawns, right? But since we've been married, and so the first thing that I did with the kids was I started weeding. There's the weeds are pretty bad, and partly because our neighbors were like, the seeds fly everywhere. And we're like, oh yeah, okay,
Yeah,
we
we
got
know.
it, we got it. So we started weeding, and honestly, it's the first time since probably I was in my maybe teens that I've been like down in the dirt and digging. And for somebody who's really kind of more academic and intellectual, I've never really prioritized that type of thing, that physical, getting the hands in the dirt. I have a good friend of mine who, like, one summer she spent her whole summer landscaping her backyard, and I was like, wow, that sounds awful. Like, I would not want to spend my time doing that. But then when I started doing the weeding, it's like I didn't know what I was doing. I YouTubed it, but suddenly I felt alive, and I felt calm, and I felt good. And so it started with the weeding, and then we figured out how to like lay down that landscaping material. What is it called? Landscaping material? I don't even know. See, I don't even know what it's called. Anyway, there's something you put on the ground, and then you put rocks on top, right? And we like got these rocks, and my sister, and then like we were shoveling like things I would have never seen myself doing, like shoveling rocks, like shoveling with a shovel. It was hard work, but at the end of it, we had kind of created this beautiful space, and then it like snowed on top of it about a week later, so we didn't have very long to enjoy it. But
But
we
we're
did
trying
it.
things. I
And the
think.
point
Yeah.
is that like we had no idea what we were doing.
It's
We
like
just totally made that up, and it was hard work. And yet there was such a sense of accomplishment because we weren't good at it, because it was something that is not our area of skill, and we tried it.
yeah.
But I'm going to take credit for that. I'm not going to give you credit. You
I
only shoveled some rocks. That's all you did.
I did
I did all that planning.
absolutely.
You're going to give me that
Yeah.
in public.
In public, that was you.
You put the Buddha on for me. You turned him.
I was a muscle. I remember picking up those rocks.
The big cinder blocks.
Well, there's kind of like this forest next to our place, so we like.
It's like undeveloped land.
Yeah. Cyrus like, there's rocks here. Like, oh,
there's some rocks in the forest. Let's go get those. So we're like lifting these giant rocks, like digging them out of the dirt. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think for us, this was again a reset. And so as listeners, as viewers, if you're watching this video, we'd love to kind of hear your stories. How are you resetting during this time? Because it is a tough time, right? Like it's not easy for many. We, we're blessed, we're lucky, we're privileged to have an opportunity to do a reset like this, kind of like a full reset. But how are you resetting? And it doesn't have to be as big as moving houses, obviously, in the middle of a pandemic. But how are how are you looking at um,
Like your
how are you making
priorities,
changes? Yeah,
right?
what are your priorities? What are you kind of focusing on? Say, okay, you know what? I'm going to take this opportunity to change something. And so we'd love to hear your stories because I mean we're still trying, and hopefully we'll come here regularly now. We'll be able to kind of continue our podcast, talk about these different, our different. What do we talk about usually? I don't even know what to call it. Our random topics, random thoughts
It's
that we
basically
have.
that things that you talk about with your spouse, maybe when you have nothing else to worry
Yeah.
about. We have a lot to worry about, but we take like a chunk of time and say, if we were to have like meaningful, connected conversations like we used to when we were dating, what would those sound like?
So those were old times.
Those were old times, but that's it, right? And I think that's on a side note.
Yeah, yeah,
That's one of the reasons I think marriages are sometimes challenging is because the things that excited us about each other they kind of go in the background,
yeah,
right? And it's like, oh, what? Why did I find you so interesting? What is interesting about you again? So let's be honest. Our podcast is more about us keeping
yeah.
this alive. Hopefully, you're getting something out of it.
Well, that for us is important, right? Like, so we're hoping to continue those types of conversations. What we find meaningful, and again, this is not us preaching. Obviously, that's not what this
Obviously,
channel,
no.
because we have a lot to work on ourselves, and we, yeah, I'm the only one, absolutely.
I have a little bit, but you have a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So we obviously have a lot to work on. We're still not on the same page, right? And, and so as we're working through all of this, I mean, our idea is to share these thoughts and to drive conversations, and that's what we're hoping, right? Like, I mean, Subzi Life podcast is kind of part of our Dragonfly Wellness Center kind of
Oh, do
initiative.
you want to talk about that? So here,
Yeah.
let me tell you about Dragonfly Wellness Center. So a few probably about a year, just over a year ago. I've have my list is getting full. I'm having wait lists. I'm trying to think about how can I support more people and serve more people. And so my dream was always to have a center, right, where we have like a wellness center. So we have massage therapists, and we have coaches, and we have financial advisors or career planning or these different people. And therapy is kind of the foundation because often in wellness centers it's massage and acupuncture are the main things, and they throw in a therapist, but I wanted to do it a different way and have mostly counselors and then other professionals. And so we got the office space there for a year and slowly starting to build out to the point where now I had a center and I had other people on board and they were renting offices from us and we were kind of cross referring and it was happening. Yeah, so that all launched on March 1st, 2020. March
Yeah.
1st. Remember what happened about 2 weeks after that? Yeah, lockdown. So we, we really had to kind of reimagine what we see this as. And so now it's become more like an online space. And so I run a women's group on Saturdays. I'm recruiting people into my team. So we have a career counselor, we have therapists, we're introducing energy healers, we're running groups. Like there's all of this exciting stuff, but it's not how I had imagined it in this particular
Yeah.
space, right? And so we like this year has given us all this crazy curveball, and sometimes we're graceful about it and sometimes we're clumsy about it, us included. And so we'd really be curious to hear, what is it meant for you? How have you kind of had to reimagine your life, your priorities, your work? What does that look like? Because I think it can be really lonely, especially because of social distancing and
Yeah.
having to isolate. It can feel like you're the only crazy person going through this. And so we wanted to kind of build that space and that community for us to share those stories together.
Right. And so follow us. I mean, we've been kind of linking, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. Uh, we'll be posting different things that Sarah is doing, like leading webinars online, like she mentioned on Saturdays. There are other things that we'll be kind of launching. We're going to start highlighting the other therapists that work with
Mm-hmm.
Dragonfly. They're amazing, and they're doing great things as well. We're also, one of the things that Sarah talked about was as we're kind of launching this online presence, we're bringing on other types of individuals, right? Like, so one of the things, and especially as a kind of a full wellness center, yes, therapy is there, but like when somebody needs help with career planning, right? Like, so we're kind of partnering with a kind of a career planner. We're talking about energy healing, so we'll be introducing all of those to the services if you just follow us, kind of, and we'll be posting and talking about those things regularly now as well. So those services are coming online. But I think what I was kind of referring to before was, as part of this initiative, it's it's one thing for us to just, again, uh, this is our way of help really growing ourselves, right? Our give back, our conversations are about growth, and so we're hoping others will join us on this journey, and continue to inspire us, really, as we're doing our work. We're seeing amazing, the our clients that we work with, or other partners that we've had the pleasure of working with. Like, they've inspired us to do our own work. And so yeah, so I think we'll leave it there. um Anything else you want to add into the live stream before we end it?
Well, hopefully our mics worked and you could hear all that. If not, we apologize.
You heard us, our
Maybe
lips
we'll
move.
add subtitles if there's no sound.
Well, we don't know if even if this recorded or not.
You have no idea. But if you're watching this after the live stream, um, add your comments, add your questions, your thoughts to any of the things that we're talking about. Just kind of plop them in there. We'd love to hear, to actually have a two-way conversation about this, not just like blah blah blah, but actually hear your thoughts and what you want to share with us as well.
Yeah, so until next time,
Smile more.
and worry less.
Bye. Finish.